Welcome, everyone, to the popular villager Hunger Games of October. We got Rudy, Boots, and Coach joining us for this round, surprisingly. And it's their first time doing it. Everyone else pretty much is returning. So, without further ado, let the popular Animal Crossing Hunger Games begin! As the tributes stand on their podiums, the horn sounds. Lucky runs away from the cornucopia. Rudy finds a bag full of explosives. Rold grabs a sword. Fauna runs away from the cornucopia. Audie grabs a jar of fishing bait while Boots grabs fishing gear. Well, gets fishing gear. Coco, Stitches, and Sasha get into a fight, and Stitches murders them both. And Sasha and Coco are gone already. Sherb runs away from the cornucopia. Zucker, Bob, and Sheena work together to get as many supplies as possible. Molly takes a handful of throwing knives. Fuchsia snatches a bottle of fruit juice and a rag. Listen, and I don't think these villagers are at that age to drink alcohol. So, yeah. Lolly grabs a backpack, not realizing it is empty. Raymond breaks Ione's nose for a basket of bread. Dang, we are going crazy already. Coach runs away from the cornucopia. Marshall takes a sickle from inside the cornucopia. Maple also grabs a sword. Anka runs away from the cornucopia. And Judy grabs a shovel. And Ketchup also runs away from the cornucopia. Alright, day 1. Audie questions her sanity. Judy and Raymond hunt for other tributes. Ketchup accidentally detonates a landmine while trying to arm it. Therefore, Ketchup is gone. Marshall receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. Fuchsia thinks about home. Ione sets off an explosive, killing Shino and Fauna. Okay, straight off the bat, a lot of villagers have died already. We lost Sasha, we lost Coco, we lost Shino, we lost Fauna, and we lost Ketchup. Anka goes hunting. Coach tries to spearfish with a trident. Lucky sees smoke rising in the distance but decides not to investigate. Rold camouflages himself in the bushes. Boots does the same. Probably with Rold, I don't know. Molly receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. Maple chases Sherb. Lolly fishes. Bob questions his sanity. And Zucker practices his archery. Rudy explores the arena. And Stitches searches for a water source. 5 cannon shots can be heard in the distance. Coco, Sasha, Ketchup, Shino, and Fauna. Coach, Raymond, and Audie cheerfully sing songs together. Marshall and Rold sleep in shifts. Lolly attempts to start a fire but is unsuccessful. Zucker, Molly, and Judy discuss the games and what might happen in the morning. Fuchsia tries to treat her infection. I think that's my garage door, opening. Please ignore. Okay. Anka, Bob, Lucky, Stitches, and Ione sleep in shifts. Rudy and Sherb tell stories about themselves to each other. Maple sets off an explosive, killing Boots. What is with these villagers trying to kill each other? There are way too many villagers are dying. We got Boots, a new competitor gone. Okay, well, it is the Hunger Games, and villagers will have to fight to the demise. Bob constructs a shack. Molly questions her sanity. Lucky defeats Lolly in a fight but spares her life. Ione receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor. Anka scares Rudy off. Sherb, Zucker, and Maple hunt for other tributes. Marshall silently snaps Stitch's neck. It must be a revenge. And from him murdering Coco and Sasha earlier, probably. He definitely saw what Stitches did to Sasha and Coco. And Marshall's like, I've been meaning to pull off a revenge for Sasha and Coco. And I'm going to do it for them. Judy cannot handle the circumstances and... I'm not going to say the word. Basically, unlives herself. Fuchsia receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. Audie, Coach, Rold, and Raymond hunt for their tributes. 3 cannon shots can be heard in the distance. Boots, Stitches, and Judy. Alright. Night 2. Audie receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. Sherb and Marshall tell stories about themselves to each other. Lolly, Anka, and Rudy sleep in shifts. Zucker begs for Fuchsia to kill him. She refuses, keeping Zucker alive. Raymond is awoken by nightmares. Since when did he get a nightmare? Ione attempts to start a fire but is unsuccessful. Coach convinces Molly to snuggle with him. Rold, Lucky, and Bob discuss the games and what might happen in the morning. And Maple cries herself to sleep. Did you do something that you regret? Or are you just crying because Stitches and Judy are, like, you know, dead, basically? Here we go, day 3. Anka picks thorns. Oh, wait. Anka is pricked by thorns while picking berries. Yeah, I was kind of rushing there. Okay, Maple discovers a river. Sherb constructs a shack. Lolly kills Coach for his supplies. And there goes another new time villager, like a new contestant. And Coach is gone. Molly receives clean water from an unknown sponsor. Fuchsia and Rold hunt for other tributes. Zucker thinks about home. Bob receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor. Ione searches for a water source. Marshall receives an explosive from an unknown sponsor. Audie hunts for other tributes. Rudy strangles Lucky with a rope. Raymond tries to spear fish with a trident. Well, our last new competitor is Rudy. I'm telling you, Rudy, you might not last long. 2 cannon shots can be heard in the distance, Coach and Lucky. I'm going to check everyone's status because straight off the bat, now there's like very few villagers remaining. We got Raymond, Bob, Marshall, Rudy, Molly, Anka, Lolly, Fuchsia, Sherb, Zucker, Maple, Audie, Rold, and Ione remaining. So that's not a lot of villagers remaining. Night 3. Maple destroys Sherb's supplies while he is asleep. Molly cries herself to sleep. Anka looks at the night sky. Bob taints Raymond's food, killing him. Jeez, Bob! I know you like snacks, but you've gone way too far on Raymond's food. Lolly thinks about winning. Yeah, I kind of hope Lolly wins. Like, her and Raymond hasn't really won anything lately. I mean, yeah. Audie attempts to start a fire, but is unsuccessful. Rold tries to treat his infection. Ione cries herself to sleep. Marshall sets up camp for the night. And so does Rudy. And Fuchsia receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor. And Zucker cooks his food before putting his fire out. Zucker, you are a food item! Like, you're based off of takoyaki. Rudy makes a wooden spear. Molly scares Rolled off. Ione, Lolly, Sherb, Bob raid Maple's camp while she is hunting. Zucker receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor. Anka searches for firewood. Marshall and Naughty split up to search for resources, and Fuchsia explores the arena. Raymond's the only villager that has pretty much died. Anyways, night 4! Lolly receives clean water from an unknown sponsor. Anka receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. Rolled, Marshall, Rudy, and Bob tell each other ghost stories to lighten the mood. Ione climbs a tree to rest. Must be natural for a squirrel. Audie, Sherb, and Fuchsia cheerfully sing songs together. Molly, Zucker, and Maple sleep in shifts. Fuchsia begs for Sherb to kill her. He refuses, keeping Fuchsia alive. Maple scares Molly off. Marshall receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. Rolled scares Rudy off. Bob explores the arena. Zucker hunts for other tributes. Anka diverts Lolly's attention and runs away. Ione's pricked by thorns while picking berries, and Audie fishes. No villagers have died tonight. Finally, no one has. There's been too many villagers dead already. Yeah, at this point. Night 5, the 5th night. Rold thinks about winning. Ione receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor. Rudy sets up camp for the night. Sherb destroys Marshall's supplies while he is asleep. Zucker receives medical supplies from an unknown sponsor. Anka also receives medical supplies from an unknown sponsor. Molly and Fuchsia talk about the tributes still alive. And Maple, Audie, Bob, and Lolly sleep in shifts. Maple stalks Fuchsia. Bob receives an explosive from an unknown sponsor. Audie diverts Rudy's attention and runs away. Marshall runs away from Ione. Zucker scares Rolled off. And Anka sees smoke rising in the distance but decides not to investigate. Sherb also sees smoke rising in the distance but decides not to investigate. And Lolly explores the arena. And Molly thinks about home. No villagers have died again. Lolly. I always get this mixed up. Molly, Bob, and Fuchsia discuss the games and what might happen in the morning. Zucker receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. Lolly thinks about home. Ione receives clean water from an unknown sponsor. Maple, Anka, and Roll discuss the games and what might happen in the morning. Sherb convinces Rudy to snuggle with him. And Marshall catches Audie off guard and kills her. Weren't you two literally just working together for the other day? Like, looking for, splitting up to search for resources the other day? Wow. Audie gotten betrayed by Marshall. Zucker goes hunting. Lolly camouflages herself in the bushes. Bob receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. Oh my gosh! Rudy sets off an explosive, killing Fuchsia, Molly, Rold, and Sherb. They were all doing so good, and Rold was thinking about winning. Rudy literally wants to be the victory royale. Anka receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor. Ione picks flowers. Marshall practices his archery. And Maple picks flowers. 5 cannon shots can be heard in the distance. Audie, Fuchsia, Molly, Rold, and Sherb. Wow. That means that Bob, Marshall, Rudy, Anka, Lolly, Zucker, Maple, and Ione are remaining. 8 villagers remain. Only 8 villagers. Marshall and Bob huddle for warmth. Ione fends Anka, Zucker, and Rudy away from her fire, while meanwhile Lolly starts a fire, and Maple screams for help. And here we are. The cornucopia is replenished with food, supplies, weapons, and memoirs from the tribute's families. Maple, Rudy, and Lolly convince each other to confront each other, but grab as what they want to slowly avoid conflict. Zucker dies from an infection. I think I might have made a mistake here. Hang on. Okay, no, I didn't. Marshall kills Ione as she tries to run, and Bob strangles Anka with a rope. So that means that Maple, Rudy, Lolly, Marshall, and Bob are the last few villagers remaining. I'm just glad I didn't make a mistake on, yeah. Alright, Rudy makes a slingshot. Marshall searches for firewood. Bob steals from Lolly while she isn't looking. And Maple receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor. 3 cannon shots can be heard in the distance. Zucker, Ione, and Anka. Maple thinks about home. Marshall and Rudy sleep in shifts. Okay, Marshall, I don't think you should be sleeping with the psychopath. Because Rudy literally just murdered so many villagers. Bob tries to treat his infection, and Lolly loses sight of where she is. Marshall and Rudy work together for the day. Lolly practices her archery. Maple picks flowers. Bob hunts for other tributes. No villagers have died today. Rudy receives clean water from an unknown sponsor, while Marshall, Lolly, Maple, and Bob tell each other ghost stories to lighten the mood. Marshall runs away from Maple. Lolly scares Bob off, and Rudy questions his sanity. No villagers have died again. Maple attempts to start a fire, but is unsuccessful. Bob quietly hums. Marshall tries to treat his infection. Lolly receives an explosive from an unknown sponsor, and Rudy thinks about home. Marshall dies from hypothermia. Lolly throws a knife into Bob's head. Rudy makes a slingshot, and Maple travels to higher ground. Ladies and gentlemen, Marshall and Bob are dead. Maple climbs a tree to rest. Rudy receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor, and Lolly unknowingly eats toxic berries. It's Maple versus Rudy. Who's gonna win? Maple or Rudy? Rudy kills Maple for her supplies. Which means Rudy wins. This is the farthest that a new competitor has gotten. This is crazy. Rudy is the last villager standing. Congratulations, Rudy. In 2 months, you will be entering the Popular Villager All-Star Survivor. And with that, another Popular Villager Hunger Games is completed. There are only 2 more remaining. 2 more Hunger Games remaining. And I'm super excited about this. I mean, there's a lot more. Like, a lot more. And the thing is, I might try to continue this next year. Like, maybe I will. Yeah. I think I will. So, anyways, that is it for this Popular Villager Hunger Games. I will see you guys in the next one.